Hello and welcome back to Hot Take here on No Bullshit, where we review the latest movies and give you our hot take on them. Today's topic is Wreck-It Ralph 2, Ralph Breaks the Internet. This computer animated sequel from Walt Disney Productions has been a long time coming, and it had a lot of stiff competition this week too, with Thanksgiving going on, Creed 2 also coming out, and the Robin Hood movie. Yet, Wreck-It Ralph 2 could be the biggest movie of this week, especially in the box offices. But does this fun but flawed Disney movie hold up to the original? We're going to talk about that today, and more, here on Hot Take. In short, not really. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, this movie was a little bit of a letdown from the original. Still a good movie, still lots of fun, still some really good laughs in there, some cool references, and a cool cast, mainly being led by John C. Reilly, who plays Ralph, one of my favorite actors of all time. But unfortunately, Johnny C. and his Ralph character, they couldn't hold up this movie from all the other downsides that are kind of dragging it down. It's not an awful movie, it's still fun, don't get me wrong, but it definitely didn't surpass the original like it should have. Wreck-It Ralph 2 really didn't capture the original spark of the first movie. First movie had a lot of flair to it. It brought you to an arcade. It showed you these video game characters in real life, having this behind the scenes stuff going on, and that was a cool introduction, but it was also something that was going to be hard to top too. So to give them credit, it is hard to make a sequel for that once you've already had such a good setup, but Wreck-It Ralph 2 fails in a couple other ways as well. That brings me to the co-lead of the movie, which is Sarah Silverman, who plays Vanellope, and I have to say that character really brought this one down a little bit for me. I'm not a big fan of Sarah Silverman. I really don't like her voice. She gets a little annoying. She sounds a little grating, and her character had more time in this movie, which honestly just made it worse for me. I know that Vanellope was in the first movie as well, and she's also a main character, but I feel like the first movie started off with a lot of Ralph, and you had a lot of Ralph time in that one, and this one is more like Vanellope time. Like Ralph is almost like a secondary character, which I didn't like at all. That brings me to the story summary for Wreck-It Ralph 2. The story summary for Ralph Breaks the Internet goes like this. Basically, Wreck-It Ralph and Vanellope are now best friends. They met in the first movie and they've been hanging out and being best buddies ever since then. I think about 6 years have passed and Vanellope starts to get a little upset. She seems to be bored by the arcade. She wants to go out in the world and see what's going on out there, whatever that means, and Ralph gets a little troubled by that and he wants to help his friend. So he goes to his friend's arcade game and makes her a new course, which actually ends up breaking the game, and ipso facto, they have to go to the internet to get a new part for the machine. This brings them to the World Wide Web. They go to places like eBay, there's a YouTube, there's Instagram. They go through all this internet stuff and it really gets reference heavy towards the second half of the movie. The internet stuff is fun, but it's a little cheap too. It's just kind of like showing pictures of stuff like, oh, here's Twitter, oh, here's this meme. They mentioned Fortnite, but they don't really get deep into much there. There's just like a lot of superficial references, which can be fun and there's some good laughs, but there's not much depth to it either, and it kind of seemed cheap, like they're just trying to reference a bunch of memes to get a laugh in a movie, trying to be cool with the kids a little too much. And I have to say, from the beginning, I've questioned this premise, bringing Wreck-It Ralph to the internet. I really didn't understand it, but in the movie, I started to see where it was going. You see, eventually when they get on the internet, they find another video game, which is like an online game, and it's basically like a different version of Grand Theft Auto Online. There's racing cars and there's crimes and stuff, and they find this game, and what happens is Vanellope falls in love with it and eventually wants to join that game and stay there for a while. And when they got to that part of the story, I was like, okay, this is cool. I see why they wanted to go to the internet, because, okay, of course, Wreck-It Ralph 1, it's in an arcade and you're just dealing with old video games on the quarter machines. And then this one, I believe what they were going for was, oh, we're gonna deal with online games. We're gonna deal with like stuff like Fortnite or Grand Theft Auto Online or other PUBG kind of things. But unfortunately, the movie here, they just touch upon that a little bit. They don't really go there enough. They mention like one or two games, like there's no Fortnite, just like a reference to Fortnite, and essentially they use this other fake Grand Theft Auto game a few times, but it really doesn't go to those places that I'd hoped. So a missed opportunity there, but I finally did see what they were going for in the middle of the movie, but that also kind of made me disappointed when they didn't nail it. Basically, the execution didn't work out on this one. They focus too much on the internet stuff, like they touch upon the internet gaming and the online gaming briefly, and then they move on to like a lot of talk about YouTube, and they get Ralph to do all these versions of YouTube videos, which is actually really funny. It was hilarious, and it's still a funny movie. Definitely good for kids, definitely good for people that like the first one, but in my opinion, it fell a little short, and it seemed a little cheap, and the internet execution was a little bad. I will mention one last part. One thing that was really awesome and well done in this movie was there's a section where they go and see all the Disney princesses. Eventually, they go on the internet and they find the Disney website, and this leads to a couple of really fun moments. There's some Star Wars references in there, some other Disney movies get referenced, but the best part, and this is in the trailer, so you might have seen some of it, the best part is when Vanellope comes across the other Disney princesses, and they all have these funny lines. They talk about how they're always damsels in distress, and they talk about how Vanellope's actually technically a princess, even though she's not your standard one. She's actually a princess from her game in Wreck-It Ralph, which makes her like a Disney princess herself. I thought this was all really cool and really fun, and not to spoil too much, but the best part about this movie is that princess scene, and then they actually set things up where they're like, yeah, you're a princess, Vanellope. They're talking to Wreck-It Ralph's friend, and they're like, Vanellope, you gotta sing a song, you gotta sing your heart out. And eventually that happens, and the song is good, and even though I hate Sarah Silverman and her voice is annoying, it's super funny the way they do it. Really good moment there, but not enough to save this movie. With all that said, let's go ahead and bring out the hot take meter. I will easily give Wreck-It Ralph 2 2.5 flames out of 5. Not quite a 3, definitely not above average, right in the middle there. I wouldn't give it a 2 either. It wasn't a really bad movie. It wasn't unwatchable. You'll definitely like it if you're taking your kids, or if you like Disney stuff a lot, or if you like Wreck-It Ralph 1. But if you're a newcomer, if you're not very interested from the beginning, probably a hard pass on this one. Not a 3, not a 4 movie, not excellent like the first one. Probably would have gotten a 3 or 4 from me, but this is a 2.5 right in the middle, and that's about it. I enjoyed the movie. I love John C. Reilly, but maybe Sarah Silverman brought this thing down. Maybe the internet stuff didn't work out. Why don't you guys tell me in the comments below what you thought about this movie, and thanks again for watching this episode of Hot Take. We'll see y'all next week to talk about Hollywood's latest movie.